Thank you so much for the opportunity to join with you in what I think is a very distinguished and useful type of setting when we speak of the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. And you know about this, and so but I wanted to do it. And I felt the belief and confidence that if I followed what I follow very well, and that is my belief that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so I take that position, and I came with virtually nothing, and I got into school here. At the time, this particular time, it's a lot to believe it a lot, which is not so germane. I was at City College, that is in Harlem, New York, and I worked every evening. I had a full-time job, and I also carried a full-time course at City College. And I decided that it was the way I would go and pay my way through school. Well, at one point, I became very interested at the little hospital where I worked called Lincoln Hospital. And they had a union. I think the code was 1199 was the union, which Dr. King had been very much involved in. I'm not sure if he actually started it, but in popularizing it and in getting it to go forward. Very supportive of it. I had a little bit of activism in my system too, and I used to support the workers. I couldn't be a member of the union because I was just a student. But I used to support them whenever they decided that they had to do actions in order to get things done. And so they became very attached to me, and I to them. Then one day I learned from them that Dr. King was going to be coming in the general area. To be honest, I'm not even sure if the site of the meeting was New York or it was New Jersey. And I said, well, I would love to meet him. I read all of his literature. I was quite familiar with the I Have a Dream speech. And I said, I'd like to meet the man. And one of the guys, the senior union guy, said, well, the only way you can meet him is you have to have a ticket or a pass or something. I said, well, I guess that rules I know. He said, not so fast. Next day he said, I'm going to try to get you to meet him. He worked it out. He got me the pass. He got me to the meeting. And after the session is over, he was able to give me a short audience with Dr. King. It was as if something had come from out of this world, because I met a man for whom I had great respect, of whom I heard a lot, and from whom I had also learned a lot. Because even in those early days, as I reviewed what I was able to get a hold of his I Have a Dream speech, I thought that this man exemplified what I wish each of us could at all times, even until today. Because his selflessness and his passion for helping others, and even at that point giving of his own body, as he had to sacrifice health and well-being as he put the marches on back then, I said, this is someone I'd like to emulate. So when we met, he asked me what it was. I told him what I was doing, and I said to him, like you, I had what I call a vision. And my vision was that one day I will be able to bring to healthcare something sufficiently meaningful that it will make a difference in the lives of many people, not just in this country, but worldwide. I didn't know what it would be as yet because I didn't have enough exposure to medicine to know even what medicine meant. But I felt that that was the reason that God had brought me to this point. So I shared this with him. And I was just so amazed at the way his simple, kind, caring attention just struck me as we spoke. And to give you a little bit of the picture of those days, we had something like 60-something medical schools in the country. There were only 2 medical schools that in which you'd find more than an occasional person of color. The 2 were Howard University in Washington, and that was by federal mandate, and Meharry in Tennessee. And that funding, the funding for that came from an endowment from someone who made it and explicitly asked that it be used for that purpose. All other medical schools occasionally saw one. When I told him, he asked me my grade at City College, and I was close to an A grade, and he said, so you're supporting yourself by working your way through college, and you're prepared to put the time in that you need. To all of these I answered in the affirmative. And he said, I'm asking you this because I want to tell you something. There are 3 things you're going to hear as you tell anyone else what you're telling me of your plans. And those 3 things would be finish college. Well, you'll be told to finish college and find a job. Because those 3 things will stand in the way of you ever doing what you're saying you want to do. And he said, I'll be told it's too expensive, the time is too long, and the work is too hard. But he said, from what you've told me, I already understand that you're prepared to make these challenges work in your favor. He said, the first thing you do, remove all of the tools. None of those tools are correct. It's going to be long, it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be difficult. And he explained this to me, which I've explained to several groups of students, and I'm particularly addressing this to the youngsters here today. He said, in life, those 3 things are always going to be there, and they can be used as stepping stones or as obstacles. He said, the work that you're going to be expected to do to become a doctor is going to be difficult, as it should be. But you have the courage to tackle difficult work at this level. I know you'll be able to do it at that level. So don't be deterred by anyone telling you it's too difficult. He said, it's going to be long. It's going to take a while before you can become a doctor. And as he said, in my case, finishing college, medical school, residency program, internship and residency program, completing general surgery as I did, and then going further into vascular surgery. It took me, the time frame is about 13 years. That's a little while. But he said to me, think about it. When you look back, he said 12 years from now, you're going to look back at this particular encounter. And you're going to say to yourself, either, thank God, I was not deterred by anything. And so I have been able to accomplish that which I wanted to. Or I'm going to look back and say, I wish I had the courage to do what I should have. Look where I come from. And he said to me, the choice is yours. And I'm sure you will choose to be able to look back and say, thank God, I was able to do it with yourself. I thanked him for that on the time. He said, as far as the difficulty is concerned, I don't even have a question in that. You will grasp it and do it. He said, as far as the money is concerned, it's going to be very expensive. But he said to me, somebody looking at you and seeing what you're doing and how you're doing it will come up with the money to help you. And that was the first time in my career and being that I had anything resembling positive manner of funding my education. We talked for other things. Let us mention one other little, because I actually asked him if he knows Calypso. Anybody know what Calypso is? No? All right. Calypso is a type of music which is very popular in the Caribbean, and particularly in Trinidad. You've heard of reggae, right? Okay, reggae is largely originated in Jamaica, and then throughout the Caribbean. And then Calypso, Trinidad, and then throughout the Caribbean. Calypso predated reggae. And the master of Calypso is one that a gentleman we call the Mighty Sparrow. He was really good. And so I told Dr. King, this is how much that we think of you in the Caribbean. Because, you know, Sparrow, the king of Calypso, he dedicated a Calypso to you. And that Calypso, the topic was Martin Luther King for president. he was very amused at that. Anyway, we went on. So we were partly now. We probably had 10 or 12 minutes. But I would be remiss if I don't ask you a question directly. What kind of financial resources, if any, you have to pay for medical school? I told him I don't have any. As I just told you, I'm working day to day. And I said to him, but I believe that God has brought me here to do this. And I believe that if he has, he will not allow me to not do it because of a few dollars. He will find a way. And he said, that is just the way I think. And he said, I'm glad to hear that. He told me, when you get the notice from the college, medical school, that you're accepted, I want you to give me a call. I would like to help. Forgive me if I get a little emotional, because it's very tough not to be. For the next piece I'll tell you. It was now the year when you send in your applications to medical school, just the year before you graduate. And I was going in for the final exams that would register on my application. But let me just say, before this happened, I heard on the radio that Dr. King had been assassinated. I cried because it felt like my own brother. Still does today, because of that conversation we had. It never occurred to me, there goes the promise of some help. I was just so saddened, but at the same time I was so happy that I was enriched by the meeting. I went on. Now, the day, as I mentioned, I was taking the final exam. And I was at home getting dressed. and I just felt myself crying. I didn't know why, because I had no fear of the exam. I knew I was going to do well, because I prepared well. It was the last set of values to be on my application. The phone rang and I picked it up. On the other end was a Dr. Cooper, who was my preceptor at City College previously. And he said to me, "Vernon, if you're standing, I want you to sit down because I have something to tell you." I thought he was telling me that I failed the semester. Not to worry to apply. I didn't know what it was. He said, "I just got a call from Albert Einstein Medical School. And the call to ask me if there are any students in my pre-med class that I would like to recommend for them to take in to their medical school." He said that they told him the federal government, following the deaths of Dr. King, President Kennedy, and subsequently Bobby Kennedy, had put aside a substantial amount of money. And they had asked the medical schools to reach out and find qualified minorities and bring them into medical school, something that had not happened before. And I want you to know, I told them yes. I had a student and I recommended him. Thank you. But you see what happened? Dr. King told me to call him. He wanted to help. I failed because I couldn't keep the promise I made to call him, because he was no longer reachable to me. But even in his death, he kept the promise he made. Einstein took me, as a matter of fact, 13 of us. First time anything ever happened in most of the medical school. And thank God I was able to complete all my preparations. Graduated. Einstein is a very good school. And I was able to go on to become a vascular surgeon. It didn't quite meet my needs as I stayed in the operating room and saw how many people came in, and I could not do very much to help them because it was too late. And so in 1990, I walked from the operating room and I set up right here in Burlington, New Jersey, in a housing project, Eureka Center for Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. And from here, I was able to send and to take the message that we needed to do two things better in healthcare. We need to prevent diseases, and we're not doing that well enough. We need to cure diseases, and we're almost not doing that at all. And there are ways for us to do it. As I told Dr. King, there's a reason I'm here. Details will not put into this, I won't. But for the remainder of my days, I'm going to spend it working on those two causes. And I'm pleased to let you know, as I speak with you now, my wife and I have reviewed the world literature on diabetes because it's probably the worst health problem we have. Because diabetes is the cause of so much heart disease, strokes, blindness, kidney destruction, and a lot more. If we can manage to cure diabetes, will have a much healthier world to be. That's just one dimension. As I sit here and I want to tell you, my wife and I have reviewed the literature, the world literature on proper management and cure of diabetes. But for the fact that we had a very severe automobile accident several weeks ago, we would already be seeing the first 25 people in whom we can apply that cure, and we know it will work. And this week, we hope to start seeing the first batch of the 25. Any of you who want to be helped, you can reach us through the school or through our office. I feel great to know that God has given us an opportunity. And maybe this is the thing that I told Dr. King about that I didn't know. Because I didn't know about diabetes then. Never heard of it when I was back home. But today, we do have a cure. And I know that certain authorities don't want me to say that. But when I take 25 people who are now on drugs for diabetes, no guessing, and within a specified period, the system is able to rebuild itself through their work as it advised. And I can then say for the first time ever in our world, 100% of the persons treated for diabetes by this protocol are cured. I wouldn't care then what the authorities want to say. It would be the right thing they don't do.
At some point, probably one-on-one, get a chance to explore with Dr. Daly. There is another rest of the story that is pretty profound, but I think it's probably a one-on-one conversation when you get a chance. But from your work in the community, what's your perspective on the situation we've been talking about today?
I'm deeply sad that in the 21st century, we still have to talk about this. I would have been much happier coming here to tell you the extension to which Mr. McGee has referenced of the things that we must do and do together. But my God, I look around. I have a son and a daughter in this school. My son is 11, my daughter is 12. And I believe that they're getting the best in education here. In fact, I know that. But yet they are as troubled and as bothered as kids in this school and everywhere else must be today when they look at the television scenes, when they read the newspapers, and they see the horrors that may be confronting them in this life. My question is, how much longer are we going to allow it to continue? Every ill has an answer. Who would try to bring answers to this kind of senseless and godless behavior that has now permeated our world. The answer to this is love. I don't believe, and I will not believe that evil will prevail and goodness will fail. That's the picture that's coming across right now. I believe if only we take a little more time and lend a helping hand, let's each of us make it our part. If I can help somebody as I go along, then my living will not be in vain. As we reach out, we must somehow get across to our youngsters, but first we have to get across to ourselves as adults. If I could help somebody, each day we must bring to bear a principle in our lives that we are going with the desire, the intention, and the effort. Who can I tell today? If each of us can do that, we would see through clearer eyes what needs to be done and what must be done. I can't give you an answer of specifically what must be done because the specifics will relate to the circumstances. What can you do? Who can you help? My wife and I bring this to our children. And I'm sure every authority in this school knows from the things they would do and say that they understand this. And so maybe the first place where we must start is the home. But an equally as important place is the school. The school has our children for most of the day during the week. Much more than they spend with us at home. What are we doing for them in the schools? I'm so happy because I see in this school so many efforts, so many things being attempted, being tried. But you know, they go back outside into the real world and they don't see it being continued there. And sometimes they may even believe that they are some kind of unusual beings when they talk about the good thing that must be done. But nonetheless, let's talk about it. Let's remind them. Let's help them to reach out. I hear my children sometimes tell me of things that happen. And the reason, I should tell us, my wife and I, the reason they're telling us these things is because they find them to be contrary to their own thinking. And I'll tell you something. Most of the time, the things that they work so hard against, I don't remember when it was that we talked about that. But you know, the general atmosphere must be such that caring must be in the picture. If they see somebody who's hurting, I want them to feel a responsibility to help. Yes, we're both doctors, they're parents. And they will come and they will tell us things, you know, this person said that this, is there something different that they can do? And very often, we will give them a little nugget to take back. Obviously, we can't treat someone that we're not having full access to. But we can help to make life a little better. I think that the horrors that we're seeing right now are not good. And we're deepening the demarcation between black and white in our world, and that is sad. I believe we've seen things that have happened in recent times that should not have happened. But I'm going to close with one of the poems I like very much because it speaks to this. I don't want us to live in the past. I don't want us to overly predict the future. I want us to live in the now. What can we do today? And if each of us formulated that question, I believe that collectively we will find the answers. I can't answer the question unless there's some specifics attached to it. One of the things that I decided to do was to go, when I left the operating room, I came to the housing project here in Burlington City. And I used a building that was not being used, and from that site, I was able to bring anyone and everyone who needed health care and was not getting it, and they didn't have to pay a dime to get it. If God has blessed me with the knowledge and the skills, He didn't simply do that so I can become rich. He did it so I can share it to help others. In that process, Len Fishman, the health commissioner, called me one evening and he said, I need your help. I've looked at what we're doing in New Jersey, and he specifically looked at cancer care. And he said, we have gone nowhere in 25 years at that review. But the only program I see that I believe can make a difference is yours. I want to create a task force. And I want you to co-chair that task force with the chairman of the New Jersey Cancer Society. And we were able to get some good things done. In fact, it was good enough that when Tommy Thompson was Secretary of Health and Human Services in George Bush's administration, I never met him, he never met me. I got a nice letter from him asking me if I'd be willing to go to the Centers for Disease Control and give 3 years there to help to put these principles in place to go national. I went there with 2003 till 2006. And they felt that I contributed. I felt that I learned. Because we were able to get a lot done. And we will continue to do that. My field is medicine. And I'm determined. Any challenge in medicine that's brought to my attention, I'll do my best to have it solved. I like you in your field of choice. As Mr. McGee and his team here in the educational field. Make the same commitment. Any challenge in education that we can be aware of, we can address it. And you, whatever your diverse fields might be, do you see where I'm coming from? Together, we can make the world a better place. I know the time is gone, so poetry is my best love. I told Leila that she likes poetry too. I'd be very happy to work with you to create a poetry club here. Maybe you have one already, I don't know. But it's such a great thing. And I believe poets are some of the most spiritual people because of the way they bring words to us. And so, one of the poems that I learned as a teenager was by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And the title of that one is a psalm of life. It goes, tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. To that he says no. Life is real. Life is earnest. And the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow finds us further than today. Art is long and time is fleeting. And our hearts, though stout and brave, still, like muffled drums, are beating funeral marches to the grave. It goes on. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however passes. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing, shall take heart again. He closes by saying, let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. Thank you.